At 11 years old, Jared Hamilton was handed a Weight Watchers book, not a basketball, not a comic book, a diet manual. And from that moment on, food stopped being fun and started being terrifying. He remembers walking down the grocery aisles, gripping his favorite snacks, and then putting it back. Not because he didn't want it, but because it would cost him half his points for the day. He remembers skipping meals, hoping hunger would feel like control, and maybe the hardest part, wishing he'd get invited to pool parties, but also praying he wouldn't, because taking his shirt off felt like stepping into a battlefield. What followed was nearly a decade of binge eating, shame, and food noise so loud it drowned out everything else. But today, Jared has helped thousands unlearn that damage, and today he is here to share more about his story. What's up, Jared?
What's up, brother? Hey, let's go.
Let's go.
Let's go. That's good.
Yeah, thank you.
That is not the normal intro. That is incredible.
I didn't want it to be normal.
That's right.
You've got your own podcast. You talk about a lot of great things on there. I did not want it to just be a regurgitation of all the things you've said 100 times.
Yeah, that's good.
Thank you. The first question that comes from that was, when you first picked up or were handed that Weight Watchers book, like, first, who gave it to you?
So my mom did. My mom was I grew up with a Weight Watcher mom.
Okay.
I mean, and here's the thing is, I know, like, even like looking back with all of that, she meant well. She didn't know any better, and all of that. But but it ended up being the biggest blessing because of what happens now. But no, that's what happened. Was I grew up just a chunky kid, like wore husky jeans, short, stubby, the slowest one of the group, like that kind of thing, and so insecurity came out, and then that's when the subject of that came out and just in conversations, and so then there's the Weight Watchers book,
right?
So
if she was a Weight Watchers woman, did she have success with Weight Watchers?
No.
So then what did she think was going to be different for you?
I don't know. Like and this is one of, like, out of all the diets, Weight Watchers is the one I harp on the most. Like, I literally just made a post, I think like last week, and the hook of the video is Weight Watchers is the acceptable adult eating disorder. Like, I'm out, like, I think it's one of the most, and it's just my prerogative, I think it's one of the most acceptable diets because it's been around for so long. It's tried and true. It's been around forever. But it is, if you ask the average person, because most people that we serve have gone through their bouts with it, but it's the diet where most people will be on it for 20, 30 years and they identify as a Weight Watcher. But they have battled the same 20 pounds for 20 years, but they're still paying their Weight Watcher dues. I am almost like a little cult, and from the way that I see it,
right,
in a lot of cases.
So how long from the time of you getting handed the book at 11 did you continue to try and stick to the rules of Weight Watchers?
I think it was on and off because I didn't know any better.
Sure.
It's just as a kid, where in the only semblance of direction was watching like my mom do it or her friends do it, or then I'd read about it in magazines or whatever. So everything went through the lens of like, well, how many points is that? And then that's why, like you said in your intro, where I can remember so many different cases where I had 24 was the point number for me. And it's one of my other pet peeves with Weight Watchers is, you could have a 350 calorie Starbucks muffin, but it's 12 points. Like, it's a 350 calorie muffin. But in my case, that would have been literally half of the allotment of food for the day, which doesn't make sense, which is why so many of the people that I talk to, if the average Weight Watcher went and almost surveyed what they're eating in calories, we're at like 1,200 or less for the average woman who should be eating upwards of 2,000 a day.
Yeah. So, I mean, with the Weight Watchers, did you feel like you had a relationship? Like, what was your relationship with food prior to being introduced to Weight Watchers? I
mean, like any other, I would say it was like any other like kid. You just eat, like you eat what you're given, and you're hungry, you go to the pantry. Like it was very, very normal. But right around when 11, 12 years old, when Weight Watchers became a thing, because I wanted to lose weight and I wasn't comfortable and that kind of thing, it just changed. It started the tapering point of my relationship with food going downhill, because everything went through that lens of, now this is good, this is bad, these are free foods, these foods, I probably shouldn't eat those, or these should be avoided, then those are binged on, and then lather, rinse, repeat.
Interesting. So as you're introduced at 11, and then how does this continue to be a slippery slope? Like, what's the breaking point that you would say was the lowest, and then you started to go in a different direction?
Well, it was just like the consistent battle, I would say, for me, from like, let's say, 11 to teenage years, where it was always like trial error, losing, gaining. But being so little, it's also like I'm prepubescent at this point,
Right.
where I don't know a single prepubescent boy or even starting to go through puberty that's not chunky. You know what I mean? So there was that, and then but then that led to any other diets, like, well, maybe carbs are the issue, then maybe I should do this, and then all the other, just the stereotypical house name diets became a thing, because then like research is happening and all of that, and then things didn't really turn and get better until probably until maybe not even mid-teenage years, because then right around 15, 16, I started, that's when I got my first gym membership. Well, I'm sorry, before the gym membership, that's when I like ordered P90X, is when I'm like, okay, let's do this. And then that got into meal plan world. And so, but then I started to see results for the first time ever was when I started working out consistently.
Okay.
And even though like Peanut, you and I both know P90X is not the optimal training.
It's honestly a decent start. And yeah.
Right. It was some semblance of a structure I had.
Right.
And then consistency rides everything. So it was the first time I've ever been, had ever been consistent. So I saw some results. And then that got me excited about strength training. And then that is what got me to the gym. And that's where everything started to get better, because then I have more voices than just soccer moms around diet advice. Now, these weren't at the time, they weren't necessarily much better, because it's a bunch of geared out gym heads that are like, no, the only way to grow muscles, eat a dozen eggs a day and do not touch fruit. And like a lot of the old school bodybuilding advice.
Right.
So, but even then I still had no idea what I was doing. So I actually took my P90X booklet. I haven't told this story very often. I forget about it. I took my P90X booklet, because you got it with the CD set, to the gym, because I'm like, okay, well, they have me doing push-ups. That looks like a bench press. I'll do that instead. And I would start substituting out. But I didn't want anyone to know I was reading off a P90X book. So I covered it in duct tape, so no one would know. I'm just like peek and put it away. And like that. So much of all this was driven off of just like also just insecurity as a whole. So yeah.
Seeing so much just shame around it in general.
Yeah.
And it not even being something that do you feel like it was told to you, or you're just watching and it being like, I'm shameful for this?
I think so much of, in my case, and I think this is a lot of people's too, is yes, some people can get directly shamed, like you're a bad person for having that. You shouldn't have it. That's bad. If we use the term guilt-free, well, then that inherently puts guilt over here. Like I think there's things like that, but I think for most people, myself included, when I was little, it was caught, not taught. Like some people have the stories of getting shamed, getting embarrassed, getting ridiculed, whatever. For me, it was more of just internalizations. Because I think like if you see in my content, where most parents, truthfully, with things aren't trying to cause problems. They're doing the best. They are just carrying baggage from their parents and whatever. But at the end of the day, it's what's internalized by the child. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
I think, and even adults to that extent.
And so throughout that time, you're having conversations with your mom or even your siblings that you're struggling with your weight or wanting to do better with food, but then they're also struggling at the same time. So it's just like very much so your environment.
Right. Well, because I also believe you can't teach what you don't know.
Right.
So like, because like, for example, present day now, when I'm working with, let's say a client, and they have a disordered relationship with food and they binge and the struggle, and they go, well, I just don't want my kids to follow in the same steps. But the parent goes, but I'm hiding it from them. And I go, you are your kids are not that dumb.
Yeah.
Like when I was a kid, I was eating dirt. Like I was like, but I swear kids now are so much more intelligent. But then you have psychology where the intellectual side doesn't even have to be there. The kid just models. The kids pick up on subtleties of when food is being passed and you grimace at the spaghetti and you just eat more salad.
Right.
Or when you get like next to no ice cream when you all go out after the T-ball game. Kids pick up on all these things. They can feel energy. Like they can across the board. So I think most of it is caught, not taught.
Right. And so do you feel like the grander solution to that would be conversations?
I think it's two things. I think you mean for the kids or for both or all?
I think both, but more so speaking from the parent to the child, of like how that relationship would be caught in a positive way relative to a...
So I think it's two things. I think it is one example. The parent cannot be one way and teach another.
Okay.
The parent cannot be binge eating in secret and teach their kid to have a great relationship with food. I think it's very few and far between where that would happen successfully. So I think it's number one, the example. If the parent fixes them, the example fixes the rest. And then the other part is proper education and teaching in what meanings we're extrapolating. Like I'll have parents all the time, they go, Jared, how do I teach my kid that the food scale is not disordered? I go, well, do you think it's disordered? Because if I was weighing my food in front of a kid, I don't think it's disordered at all, but it's the meanings we take. And that also what tells the kid and what's being internalized.
Right.
So I think a lot of it is the meanings that are taken away from this, but that only happens through conversation and communication and education in these hyper small moments, like weighing my food, or what happens when your kid wants to have dessert before their meal, like how you're having these conversations.
Right. How it's being presented to them, and then what you're doing with your food is massive. And if you're only taking out the scale to make sure that you're losing weight, well, then that association is just going to chronically be there of this is this terrible thing that I'm carrying too much weight. So now I'm using it.
Right.
When I'm not carrying too much weight and I feel good per se, it's not here.
Or it's only coming out with certain meanings, like, oh, so mommy doesn't overeat, versus like, no, so mommy eats enough. Or like, oh, this is because mommy doesn't get enough protein. Protein makes mommy really strong, so I got to make sure I get enough protein.
Right.
Whereas those are two entirely different meanings.
Yeah.
Across the board. So.
And would often just be overlooked or one-offed and not really thought about as a big deal. But those things happen every day. And so they're going to make a very large impact in the grand scheme of things.
I think there's I don't think this is a like tried and true rule all the time, but I think a lot of unconscious words it's all based on conscious and unconscious beliefs. Like, for example, if I hear a client go, well, I tried to not eat any junk today or eat any bad food today, and they go, well, I know it's not bad. I go, but you said it without even thinking about it. You go, you had to put it over here on this list of this is bad or this is junk or this is whatever. But that's coming from like a subconscious belief. It's almost like the old saying of like a drunk man's words is a sober man's thoughts. I think a lot of it comes out of that. When you just see what comes out, if you start being aware of what you think about and what you say and reflect on it, it's why I think inner work is so important and self-reflection is such a big deal. Otherwise, you don't know what's going on upstairs that you needs to address. Beliefs should be challenged. Thought processes should be analyzed, and reflection should be had.
Low reps is best.
High reps is best.
Fruit is so
it's
good.
Terrible for you.
You should lift heavy.
High reps,
Carbs
low
are
weight.
needed.
Keto
Squats
for
are
life.
bad for your
Squats
knees.
are great
You
for your
should
knees.
squat ass to
Knees over
grass.
toes.
It's fine. It fits my
Macros is for
macros.
idiots.
When there are so many mixed messages going around, it's hard to know what you should even do or focus on. But that's exactly where Physique Development one-on-one coaching comes in. You might have heard of online coaching or even hired a coach before, but we believe in teaching you the why behind what we do while truly taking your life into consideration. We want to train, educate, and empower you to reach your goals and help you to stop spinning your wheels and just finally feel good. And hey, we're here to help you look good too. You need you. Your health is your wealth. So join Physique Development and let us be the last coach you ever need.
Sure. I couldn't agree more. Now, with your experience, did the food noise and the challenged relationship with food start immediately as you were trying to diet, or did it just happen organically over time?
I think over time.
Yeah.
And then it just grew and grew and grew and then turned into this big monster, if
Right.
you will.
So then when you're facing this big monster for the first time, that you're thinking, okay, you're not going to run my day any longer. What was the first step that you took to go in the other direction?
So in my experience, it wasn't that. I wasn't aware it was happening because like it's like watching your hair grow out. You don't notice it happening. So it didn't get to the point of like food noise is so loud and my relationship with food is disordered. That wasn't it at all. To be honest, mine was even a little bit more unconscious. I thought it was good. I thought my binge eating, we call those cheat days, and those were good for you.
Right.
Right. Like, but then it got to an illogical point where I would spend more time planning my cheat days than I would like my wife's birthday. Yeah. Where I'm like, okay, it's Friday, so I'm going to go get donuts at this place and I'm going to have lunch at this place, but I want breadsticks from this place and I'm going to go get, and I would literally do that, but every week. Because I'm like, no, this is what the bodybuilders at the gym say, and they look great. So this is what I should be doing. Whereas I just didn't know any better.
Yeah.
And the counsel I was seeking wasn't the greatest.
Right.
So, so for me, over time from childhood, though, I wouldn't say the food noise. It just grew, and then I didn't even know that was a thing. Because a thing that I hear from clients as well is they think that's just part of it. It's this almost like this unconscious incompetence, if you will, around. No, this is just what happens. You're supposed to think about food all day. That's just how this game goes. But I view it the same way as like a relationship. Like if like you and Sue's relationship is fantastic.
Thank you.
But if you hear someone talking about how horrible their wife is and but that's just part of marriage and they're just raging terrible and they get over me all day, you're like, No, because your experience is so much different, and
Right.
you instantly go, oh, they don't know. They don't know any better. It's the same thing with this. So many people have this like death by 1,000 cuts where this just builds and builds and builds, and they don't even realize it until it gets to a level where they go, this is just how it's supposed to be. And they don't even realize they're inside this like proverbial jail. So for me, it was that, and it didn't start making the difference until I started fixing my relationship with food and easing the restriction, realizing no, certain foods are bad. I can make things work in moderation, like a lot of that. And then I noticed like, oh, this pressure around food or food noise started to go away. I didn't realize that's what I was doing at the time.
Right. So it's breaking out of an all or nothing mentality to a degree, where you're just looking at absolutes of good and bad and being able to find that middle point for you within the different foods.
Yeah. I mean, it's everything from all or nothing behavior to just ill beliefs around food. Like the thought, like there's one point where it's like, okay, fruit is inherently bad by itself, or sugar inherently stores fat, and regardless of the situation, or it was just completely wrong beliefs, mixed with mentalities of, oh no, I'm either all in or all out. And a lot of things taken out of context and things like that. So
Give me some context on the fruit is bad. What was that?
I experienced this, and I still have this conversation every week with clients is, well, fruit is sugar is bad.
Interesting.
Yeah. Or it's funny. I remember even in the young kid stage of like going through this, I remember I saw a magazine, then the little ad on the front, like you'll see them with all sorts of different like hooks on it or whatever. And it was like the 7 worst foods to eat while driving. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I drive to school every day. And like apples were at the top of the list. Like don't eat apples while you're driving because you're sitting down and it's sugar. And it's just complete inaccurate fear mongering.
And I feel like some of that is kind of coming back on social media.
For sure.
Not kind of, it is.
It 100% is. I have way too many conversations every week around like, no, you can totally go eat grapes. Right. But then there's a handful of PhDs who are like, no, grapes are diabetes bombs.
Wow.
Like that's wrong. So
yeah, it's like what a minuscule thing to make the enemy,
right,
and a much bigger issue if we're thinking that that's the problem.
Yeah, the obesity epidemic. Grapes.
Yeah, fruit. Just stay away from fruit, please. It's gonna continue to exacerbate all of this.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So I guess going back to the food noise and being able to assess for yourself and make progress working out of the relationship or improving the relationship, do you remember any like sticking points that you experienced, or points that you were like, maybe fruit is that terrible, or maybe like the cheat days were actually worth it? Like, did you have any points like that?
I mean, I think during all of it, because you're unlearning. Right. So I think unlearning things that, whether it be a coping strategy, an identity, a belief system, those are the hardest things to unlearn because your brain views them as safety. You know what I mean? So because anything from a psychology standpoint, anytime we have an identity that no longer serves us, let's say all or nothing, or let's say a coping strategy, let's say emotional eating, whatever, in a weird way, when it came about because it served you in that moment, right? Like if someone learned emotional eating when they were 6 with their parents' divorce, in a weird way, the emotional eating kept that child grounded, or whatever the case may be. So when we are unlearning it, it's why it's so hard, is because the subconscious part of your brain is like, you're going to die if you let me go. Yeah. So that's why it's really, really hard. It's why you could know one thing, but do it different, because logic, it's like logic doesn't care about emotions. Emotion doesn't care about logic. So for me, I think the biggest sticking point was when I first so after social media came out and everything, and learning from people like ourselves, whereas when I first heard that all calories are the same, and I'm like, no, like I should be able to eat, let's say, double the amount of healthy calories as unhealthy calories. And I struggle with that one. I'm like, you're saying if I eat 2,000, and then it goes to the extreme, 2,000 calories of sugar is the same as if I eat 2,000 calories of chicken. But I didn't understand the difference between calories and nutrient composition and things like that. But that's where I started learning. When I finally accepted it, I go, I'm going to try this. And then I would start to I wouldn't wait till the weekend to crave something. I would have a donut on a Tuesday instead of eating a dozen donuts on Friday. Wow. And then it started to make more sense and things like that.
Huh. Okay. So when you are working with clients now, or even for yourself, do you feel like when you're addressing these different components, is it more of a titration of decrease, or is it rip the Band-Aid off approach? Is it different for everybody?
It is different for everyone, but I always lean on the titration side. I think of it as exposure therapy,
Right.
like in the same notion as that. Because at the end of the day, if someone, let's say feels uncontrolled around food, and if they say, once I start, I can't stop, I can't have cookies in the house, otherwise I will eat all the Oreos. Well, the last thing I want to do is go, no, have the Oreos in your house. Because because it's a neural pathway problem. Because if the old neural pathway is every time I have an Oreo, I eat all of the Oreos, the brain doesn't necessarily know there's this other reality over here. It believes that this is all I can do. So we have to give it now irrefutable proof that no, you actually do have that. But it can't be it's not a conscious thing, because consciously you're like, no, I know I should be able to, but then you feel like a crackhead in the pantry.
Right.
Whereas I'm a big fan of treating it very much like exposure therapy. So like, for example, if I have a client that says, I want to have freedom around food and I can't control myself, I go, cool. Step one, let's get all the food that is like that out of the house temporarily. Most coaches, I think, shit the bed where just get out of the house. And that's the end of it. I'm like,
Right.
What happens when you go over to the birthday party? Or what happens when you go out to eat? Just saying, get this out of my life is not a coaching strategy, in my opinion. And then step two is go to the gas station or grocery store every single day. Like, it sounds obnoxious, but it's annoying. It's every day. They sell anything that someone struggles with. They sell in a 2-pack.
Yeah.
Like, capitalism's great for this, right? Like there's in the food industries, because they have hella profits on it, but you can go buy one donut, one piece of pizza, one cupcake, one donut, 2 packs of Oreos, vending machine sized bag of chips. You can buy anything for 150 to 500 calories. So I'll have the client, step one, eliminate it from the house, because you can't be in the middle of this and then binge eating every other day. It doesn't work. So then we need to give your brain a new neural pathway and a new reality it hasn't seen. Because if your brain is used to every time you have, let's say, the Oreos, you binge on them. That's just what it normally does. Just like if I normally talk with my hands and you duct tape my hands, I would catch myself pulling away and it would feel weird because it's an unconscious habit. So after that, step one, step two, you now go to the gas station, grocery store, whatever. If it's a really bad case, I really have them do it every single day. And they go get their 2-pack of Oreos or their 1 donut every single day, but have them bring it back home. Don't eat it in the car. Don't eat it there. You need to retrain your brain that you have control in your own house. Where there's no shame, there's no guilt around it. It is you enjoy it, is now part of the plan. And then you eat it. And while you're eating it, your brain is under the hood going, oh shit, she's about to binge. Why didn't she binge?
Right.
Wait a second. We're an all or nothing person. Wait a second. Once we start, we can't stop. It's literally having this own internal conflict. It's like if your dog came across the ceiling right now, you would go, my whole belief in gravity is getting shifted right in front of me. Right. Because you have an irrefutable proof, right, literally in front of you. And then I have them do that for the next probably 30, 45 days.
Okay.
And then usually right around then they start to lose a little bit of weight because they're not binging on it. And I swear it's like clockwork. Whenever they start to lose a little bit of weight while eating the thing that they thought was bad or that they thought they were uncontrolled around, it is like something snaps because they got the result that they wanted, even if it's nothing major, like they lost a half pound and they're like, oh my gosh, the gravity has been turned off. This is crazy. And then after that, depending on where they're at, then I'll have them start bringing the food back into their house because we're not out of the weeds yet.
Right.
We're not out of the woods where then, cool, I want you to have 5 Oreos at home and only have 1 a day. Okay, we did good with that. Cool. Bring 10 home. Put them in a baggie, whatever. Then, okay, now we're ready for the whole pack to be at home. And then we just slowly titrate it. So, and it works. And I'm telling you, it works like clockwork. I'll take someone who's binge eaten for 60 years and it's done in 6 weeks.
Wow. That's incredible. So when they get to the point where they're having it back in their house, let's say they have the pack of Oreos, how are you maybe monitoring that outside of just, because the thing that comes to mind for me is that person who went through the 30 to 45 days and then now is in this space where they feel they're ready to take on having the full thing in the house. If they slip, now knowing you, I know your communication style. I know that you're going to create an environment to where they feel comfortable to share that. But I also understand that that person is going to feel a tremendous amount of guilt for any slip up that would occur. Sure. So how do you kind of navigate that potentially happening, I guess?
So that's a great question. So the big piece is when we have that back in. Because a lot of this is predicated individually on how well they're doing and handling it and all of that. But let's say when it gets to the point of they have the whole thing in, I mean, by that point, we're pretty like, we're
pretty steady.
We're pretty good.
Okay.
Like binges are like, wait, I can't remember the last time I binged. That kind of conversation most of the time. But even still, though, is it's still the normal communication of if that happens, I want to know about it. We're still communicating. We're still having check-ins. We're still going back and forth. Like literally, one of the questions is, "How was your relationship with food this week?"
Okay.
Like at that point, they would almost have to be dishonest if they're like, "No, I didn't. It was great." But then meanwhile, they're smashing whole packs of Oreos again.
Right.
And here's the thing: if let's say for some reason, let's say a little bit of a relapse starts to happen, cool. We'll take however many steps back we need to. And again, it's just part of the process. Where if this is the messiness also. Whereas if let's say they're like, "Oh no, I started to overeat again a lot," or "Oh, I started to think about the Oreos again." Generally, it doesn't go from like, "Cool, I'm cool where I can have the whole pack," and then we just revert back. It goes from that to, "I'm thinking about them a lot now."
Right.
Like, okay, pause. Do we need to like take a step back again? Which if we do, no judgment, no shame, that's cool. But a lot of it, there's a lot of self-awareness that happens in between that. So.
Right. And I would imagine that you're addressing other factors of things happening in their life where it's like they may have greater stress from work, or they may have a loss of a family member, something that's very heavy, that a lot of those cravings would feel like comfort to them. And so then you're also having to navigate through the challenges of that.
Most of the time we fix that. We address that even usually
Earlier.
before the method where we go back and forth with like Oreos and all that stuff. A lot of times I'll do it at the same time too, because one of the most underutilized skill sets, in my opinion, to be a human, let alone from a fat loss perspective, is emotional regulation.
Sure.
If you cannot regulate yourself to feel things and to handle stress, chaos, overwhelm, whatever, you're missing the mark. And it's why like you're blowing up with your partner. It's why you scream at your kids. It's why you feel like you're good and you suppress for so long until a breakdown happens. It's why you scroll for 2 hours at a time. Whereas it shows up a lot in non-food areas too, but getting emotionally regulated is one of the first things that we usually fix with people, because it all goes hand in hand. Like
Right,
the whole thing for me with food noise is not the issue. Food noise is a sounding alarm of a deeper issue at hand. And there's a lot of them. I have a training that I do with my community members. I call it the 7-headed monster of food noise. And there's I found like 7 or so specific reasons that I'm convinced food noise comes from. And half of it has to do with food. Half of it doesn't have to do with food directly. It just manifests in the form of food. And for most people, we got to address all the reasons. Same thing with binge eating. In my opinion, there's roughly 4 reasons for binge eating.
Okay.
But if you're only addressing 2 and you're still binge eating, well, it's because you're not finished with it.
Right.
If your car engine pings, there's probably 3 or 4 reasons it's pinging. It's not just a screw. You know what I mean? So we have to address all of it.
So then the next question that comes to mind for me is communication with family members or people that they're consistently seeing, coworkers. How do you address that, or how you're going to have to, but how do you address that?
As far as like when they're like,
working
hey,
with them, I suppose, like they may come to you with, hey, my coworker, my husband, they're wanting me to basically revert back to how I was because the way that I acted basically gave them permission to act that same way. And now I'm no longer giving them permission. So now they're upset with me. And I would imagine you run into that a lot.
Yeah. It's where personal boundaries and communication are everything.
Yeah.
Which most people don't do. Most people do not have boundaries with themselves, let alone with other people. Then we get into, people pleasing patterns are a thing, or other coping mechanisms or what have you. So usually that's a communication and boundaries conversation.
Okay.
But most people also, it's interesting. Most people, like I'll see this a lot with a husband and wife, where wife wants help. Wife is struggling, but the husband doesn't see the value. You should just be able to do what I do.
Exactly.
So there's an issue there, but there's also an issue from let's say the wife's perspective of, have you ever communicated with your husband? This is a big issue. No. Does he know it affects you like this? Does he know you binge eat at night when he goes to bed? Does he know? Well, then this is not just like, oh, my husband doesn't want me to do this. It's how much have you communicated with him? This is an actual issue. Does he know that your daughter's binge eating just like you?
Right.
Oh, probably. And then it turns out no communication is being had at all. So I have an issue with the husband's like, no, you should know better. But at the same time, in this analogy, the wife should communicate with the husband around that. Now, if she doesn't feel comfortable with talking with the husband about it, that is a marriage counselor issue, right? But you can see how this goes from like, I want to lose weight. Oh, why aren't we losing weight? Food issues, binge eating, food noise. and then talking to my husband, family dynamics, it gets really deep really quick.
Very quickly.
Which is also why when this gets fixed the right way, it can transform a household in months.
Exactly. Are you sick and tired of your glutes not growing? Turning around in the mirror and seeing a board for a booty? I've been coaching for nearly a decade, helping thousands of women reach their goals. The most common goal? Grow my glutes. Women in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and even 60s able to grow their glutes with the guidance of my training programs. And for all this time, I've kept my best glute growth secrets only for my one-on-one clients. And that changes today. We just released our 12-week glute growth program in the PD training app. It is a 4-day program with exercise and volume adjustments every 3 weeks. You can easily access the program through our app and track every single workout. Each exercise will have a detailed video teaching you exactly how to perform each and every movement. And guess what? I am no longer gatekeeping. I'm sharing every single one of my best glute growth secrets inside this program because you are awesome and I want you to have this program. I'm going to give you $25 off, making it a fraction of what you spent at Starbucks this past month. Use code POD. The link to purchase will be in the description. Now let's get back to the show, which we talk about getting it fixed the right way. We have two I'll say one very popular option right now of utilizing GLP-1s to just eliminate this from the jump. And it is helping a lot of people, but it is not giving them the resources or the tools to mitigate it forever. And so then when they're on the medication, they have the help. When the medication is removed, no longer getting the help, running into the same issues. And so I would imagine that you have a lot of people either coming to you having tried GLP-1s and then gone back to their ways, or people who are in the trenches of using a GLP-1. And it's like, now this is probably the best time if they were to come in.
It's the best.
The best.
The best.
They're in the trenches of using it. And then they're like, okay, now I want to figure out the tools. It's quieter now so I can be more proactive with changing it. Because I do think that for some individuals, it is so loud that it's difficult to not address without, like the medication just makes it much more feasible for them to finally address it. It's gotten to a point so deep that they're like, I'm so far out that I need a little bit of a raft to get at least halfway there, and then I can do the rest.
Totally. And that's where I get asked a lot about GLP. And with GLP-1 it's like any other answer. It depends.
Right.
But at the same time, you're right. Some people, the food noise is just so debilitating where they're like, I need this to silence a little bit to even get my feet or to get my feet established. But the issue that I see also with that is people are getting put on such high doses out the gate where you can't fix something if it's not there, where it kills it. Where like they went from eating 4,000 calories a day on uncontrolled binges to they're cool at 500 calories a day.
Yeah.
Like I know people, like I can visualize their faces where they are cool at 500 calories a day, post smoking weed with ice cream right in front of them. They're like, I'm good.
Yeah.
But you can't, it's hard to address that if it's not there. Because part of healing through a trigger or a pattern or whatever these things are, it has to be here. It's like, you can't not get over a fear without facing it because the body teaches the mind what to think, like from a neuroscience perspective. So there's that too. So that's why it's really delicate. But to your point is what we're seeing a lot is people get on GLP-1, shut down, we're good. But then as soon as they come off of it, it all comes back and then some.
Exactly.
So you have to do the work that GLP-1 isn't going to do. I view this the same, also in the same camp as is a lot of like mood stabilizers, like anxiety and depression medication. Where cool, if you're on it, some of my favorite people in the world are on that, but they also are in therapy. They're also healing inner child wounds. They're also putting up boundaries with toxic family members and all of the things where we don't want to ever look at one thing like the savior. I even view that with coaching. If someone says, oh, like Jared, you're my savior, I already know that's going to be a problem client.
Yeah.
Whereas you're your savior. Like from a coaching perspective, we can lay the blueprint, but I can't take away your free will. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of times where people are getting into trouble is they're looking at whatever modality, GLP-1, coaching, their Weight Watchers booklet, whatever, as this is my savior, whereas it's just a tool and you're the savior.
One of the analogies that I'll use for the GLP-1 is that prior to putting it in place, the stove has been scorching hot. And when you touch it, you rip your hand away. And then the GLP-1's in place. Now the stove's all of a sudden not hot. So you're like, I'm going to use this to rest my hand on. And then the GLP-1's ripped out and you're like, oh, my whole arm is on fire now.
Yeah.
And it's like the same issue was there.
Yeah.
It was just muted for a period of time. And so, yeah, I think that the GLP-1s have been a good tool. It's just been used in ways that it shouldn't have.
Yeah. I mean, my prerogative is I think they're being a little bit too overprescribed.
Yeah.
Like I know people who like happen to look at the scale and the doctor's like, you want, like it's crazy.
Right.
But then people who need them aren't getting their prescriptions because they're being overproduced, and it's the whole
Yeah, and
race.
then the med spas they're just giving it out like candy,
Literally.
and then they're titrating up the dosages just off of you've been at this dosage for 4 weeks, doesn't matter what's happened in this time, you need to go up, and then they just continue to go up, and then their dosage is through the roof, and they're like, oh, I don't need to actually eat at all.
Yeah.
I'm fine not eating. And then they're still in this place where yes, they're losing weight, but it's something where the quality of loss of that weight is now being a hindrance.
Sure.
Because they're just not eating at all. Yeah, that's a challenge. Now let's talk about an option here that doesn't work all that well. Weight Watchers.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
When we talk about Weight Watchers, it's been around for so long, and they've created their own system around something that didn't need another system. It had numbers in place for it already, but they've made up their own point system that has now created this fallacy of understanding what the caloric value of foods are and creating their own system of what is good and bad.
Right.
What would you say is the most detrimental part of Weight Watchers?
There's so much misinformation around it, like with because of I don't even understand their little weird points algorithm, because it's not doing anything with macros or calories or anything like that. It's their own thing where they have foods that, let's say, are more nutrient dense, that are lower calorie, but they still have calories. Those are free, where you can eat as much as you want. So now people are binge eating on those foods because it's the out of jail free card. And people are binge eating on these foods, even if let's say they're healthy or they're beneficial for you, but they still have calories. It's still also enabling the habit of binge eating. I don't care if it's a good food. I'm not a fan of validating uncontrolled overeating and binge eating and things like that, regardless. And then the foods that, let's say, are high points, those are demonized in that sector. So the cupcake that you might want to enjoy at your nephew's birthday party, you're like, I shouldn't have that. That's a high calorie food. Like that internal dichotomy that's going on, and that's going to over time hinder the relationship with food. But then on top of it, most people who are following a Weight Watchers point system are eating sub 1,000 calories. I can't tell you how many clients have told me, they're like, Jared, I added up my points for the day in calories and I'm at 800, I'm at 900, I'm at 1,100, I'm at 700. It's wild. So of course, food noise is loud. You're not recovering. Your metabolism is down regulating. You're plateauing and you sleep like shit. You feel like shit. And then you could say, fuck it. And then you gain everything back. So there's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah. What's the, I have so much to learn about Weight Watchers.
Did you see they're also filing bankruptcy?
Oh, really?
I saw that last week. There's this big thing. They're filing bankruptcy, which I'm not one to like, yay for me because of like someone else's suffering. Like I'm never like that, but I'm not upset about it by any means. So
because you would say that their ideal customer is the suburban mom, I suppose.
Here's what's crazy. Yes, but man, if you look at my comment sections on any of my videos where I'm talking about Weight Watchers, everyone started at 8, 7, 12.
Oh, so they're starting. Everyone's
100%.
A large portion.
I
of
was
people
11.
Yeah.
Like it was. Oh yeah. It's because most suburban moms if they have chunky kids, they put their kid on Weight Watchers. Like it's wild. So
that's interesting. With it being like, why is it looked at as an option for kids when I feel like other diet strategies or even simple supplements like creatine, for example, would be categorized as not safe for kids?
I think you're assuming most people are more educated. I think it's
Right.
because parents don't know any better.
Yeah.
Like for context, I knew this was bad. I didn't know quite to the extent until people started, and I love this. So if you're watching, I keep doing it. People like trauma dump in my comment sections, and I love it. I love that they're sharing and making this more of a discussion. Parents do some fucked up shit.
Yeah.
Like most of my, like if you see you'll see some of the skits that I do, and people are like, that would never happen. We'll read the other 100 comments.
Right.
Like kids are staying, like parents who say you can't leave the table till you eat every bite. They're up till 3 a.m.
Right.
And then they get in trouble for being up till 3 a.m. Can't tell you how many people in my comment sections had their parents that said, you can't leave the table till you finish that. So the kid eats it, throws up. And then some parents are making them eat the vomit.
Wow.
Like I'm telling you, people are telling me in the comment sections, mom's on let's say I can't think of the name off the top of my head, weight loss medication pills that are just like that are crazy high stimulants. And here, take half of mommy's pill. Like I'm talking about wild shit. So I think the parents putting their kids on Weight Watchers, it seemed, I can see why it would seem reasonable to the parent, because the parent thinks Weight Watchers is reasonable for them.
Right.
But then they have no idea it's doing what it's doing to the kids.
Yeah. And it doesn't even give them any actual education on nutrition.
Because the parents aren't educated.
Sure.
The parents are like, ooh, lots of points bad, lower points good. I'm going to do that. And and they don't even think about it.
Do you think that they're outside of, in our little community and little world of fitness and coaching, it seems abundantly available, the resources that are free to give nutritional knowledge. Now, that's not going to the masses.
Sure.
That is not something they're even aware of. Like if I was to send a YouTube video that we've done on teaching different things, I think that would be very eye-opening to a number of people of like, this is free.
Yeah.
I can't believe this is free. This is,
Sure.
But also, are they even going to be able to connect the dots to apply those things? Or is it just too much work?
I think there's a few things. I think number one is knowledge and application are two different things.
Right.
Whereas there's a lot of people that go, they're like we have clients. I don't know if you ever have this. I'm sure you guys do. Do you ever have clients that have a higher education than you, but they they just can't apply it?
Mm-hmm.
It's because knowledge doesn't always equate to implementation.
Sure.
But then also, and this is a double-edged sword, because we're also in a place where we have the most amount of information and great information readily available.
Mm-hmm.
But we also, that means have more abundance than ever of shitty information.
Yeah.
I mean, how often do you have a person applying for coaching that say, man, I hear you say this, but then I hear this other really intelligent person say the total opposite. I don't know who to listen to.
Yeah.
But they're also following 150 other accounts. They're in 12 different Facebook groups. They've tried every diet that has its polar opposite. And so I don't blame them for also being confused as fuck. So that's why I think they'll pick something like Weight Watchers or any diet, Weight Watchers, Optavia, keto, fasting, carnivore, like whatever. And they will see a little bit of success. They go, oh, I made it. And they'll just go in the trenches, because there's also, I hate to say it, a little bit of desperation.
Right.
So because of that, they go, hey, I've been struggling. I finally am seeing some semblance. And then it's easy to validate bad decisions, because like, oh, you know what? I think I could eat like this forever. I think, it's not that bad. Like we see people validate horrible relationships or toxic bosses or abusive situations. Like for me, it's not that surprising. People are validating like, oh yeah, I don't need carbs ever again. This isn't that bad.
Right. Interesting.
The psychology behind it's wild.
It is insane. And all of those are just creating an oversimplified version of nutrition. And then it feels more doable, I guess. And then they're able to run with it. They're seeing some results. And then all of a sudden they're like, it's not that bad.
Yep.
Huh. It's an uphill battle to fix, basically. And people have to be willing to want to fix it.
And then the next problem that usually comes after this is once they reach their breaking point and they fall off, they go, okay, I got to get back on track. I want to lose this weight. And then they go back to the only thing that ever gave them results. Then they go back to it.
Right.
Welcome to now yo-yo dieting.
Right.
But it's that's just the back and forth.
It's a a topic that I ponder on so much.
It's crazy, especially the more you look into the psychology, the behavior patterns, the neuroscience behind it, because that's all I'm fascinated with. And then all of that, it's just wild.
So you and I have been friends for a long time, and we've also both been coaching for a long time. Did you see yourself having this level of passion for the psychological part of all this?
Young Jared would have mocked this Jared. Yes. Dude, here's the truth, especially like I never thought I would be, first of all, if you would have known younger Jared doing personal training, sustainable fat loss coaching, you would have never seen that happen, let alone this version talking about emotional regulation, inner child work, therapeutic modalities, parts work, inner family systems, journaling, meditation, like a lot of the we'll call it the hippy dippy stuff. That is not even remotely close to, like, if he would have made fun of this version. I mean, I remember just not that many years ago, I thought just therapy alone was for suicidal quacks, let alone I just still go to, I was in therapy just like a couple weeks ago. Like let alone bring in some of those, I'm not a therapist, but bring in therapeutic modalities and levels of inner work into coaching. Right. It never would have seen that happen.
I could not agree more. When I first started, I thought I was just going to be, it was very cut and dry. This is the food you need to eat. This is how you need to train, and you're going to have results you don't need to worry about anything else. Because for me at that time, that was kind of how it had worked for me. It was pretty cut and dry. And I've very quickly come to realize it is still great training and still great nutrition, but there's so much more conversation and focus on the habits that are there and instilling that, as well as the conversation that people are having with themselves and just getting into the mind of the person and realizing that that is 90% of the issue. It's not the knowledge that we've been speaking. Like, it's not the knowledge of what should I eat or what have you. That is a part of it, but it's much less than what the experience has been and how they're speaking to themselves and what's going on between their ears.
100%. I mean, if it's such an interesting dichotomy, whereas if the headspace is not in check, like it's funny in jiu-jitsu, they talk about it wherever the head goes, the body follows. You smash this guy's face into the mat, his body's going into the mat.
Yeah.
But it's no different here. But then inversely, the body teaches the mind what to think. It's why you have to face the fear before the fear goes away. You can't logical way your way to gain over the fear of heights. So in the same way, like the whole food thing is, they don't feel like they can feel free around food or controlled around it until we have repetition of proving to their brain in their actions in their body, you can do this. And then new neural pathways are wired, because in the brain, cells that fire together. So we're just getting new cells to fire together. Now they're wiring, now new neural pathways are developed. So yes, the mind is the mindset and the beliefs and all that is everything, because it translates downhill of unconscious actions. But then at the same time, the body teaches the mind what to think too. So it's a wild ride.
Yeah. It's far more intertwined than I ever thought it was going to be at the start of it. But it has allowed for us to help so many more people and like make a real lasting change for those people. Because if I was just coaching the way that I was when I first started, I would have been helpful when I was there, and then I would not have been helpful after I was gone.
Right.
But now I'm in a place where the work that we do is tremendous while we're there, and it's also tremendous when we're gone. And that has been far more fulfilling than anything. It's been far harder of work, but it's been much more rewarding equally. So I'm really just grateful for you coming in and getting to talk about this.
100%.
It's been fantastic to have you here.
I'm grateful to be here.
Yeah.
Man.
Why don't you let the people know where they can find you, anything that you want to plug?
Easiest place to find me is hang out every day on Instagram and TikTok at Real Jared Hamilton. My podcast is called Dieting from the Inside Out. If you're into listening to these kind of concepts, just way deeper and whatnot. And then there's a lot of stuff in the back on the back end. I'm working on a book right now, working on a TED Talk right now, working on some pretty big boy stuff. So
I love it. Well, thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you, Jared, for being here.
Appreciate you having me.
We'll see you guys in the next episode.